Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic goblin noise!
Hey gang! Using the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the Generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Hey gang, and welcome to today's video. We've got another multi-zone matchup, with Joel playing his Chainer deck. He keeps a Magus of the Wheel, Cathartic Reunion, Tormenting Voice, Death Cultist, Phyrexian Tower, Bloodstained Mire, and a Mountain. Dom has sleeved up the new Atris deck, keeping an Island, a Swamp, Animate Dead, Phyrexian Metamorph, Venser, Tunnel Vision, and Sphinx of the Thune. New to the channel is Jean-Christophe, who has nicely decided to go by JC in this video, and he keeps an Embarrow Rites, a Mortify, Nissa Vastwood Seer, Myriad Landscape, Blast Zone, Swamp, and a Shambling Vent. Kevin is playing his Borborygmos Enraged deck, keeping an Arcane Lighthouse, Guruk Wildspeaker, Expedition Map, Kessig Wolfrun, Mountain, Forest, and Rishkar's Expertise. Kevin wins the die roll and starts us off. Kevin plays a Forest tap from his hand as he's casting an Expedition Map before passing. Joel plays a Luxury Suite and casts Death Cultist. JC plays a tap Myriad Landscape. Dom plays an Island and passes. Kevin plays a Mountain and casts Edge of Autumn. He goes to find a basic and puts it into play tapped. Joel plays a Phyrexian Tower and casts Cathartic Reunion. He discards his 2 and draws 3, and then heading to combat, hits Dom for 1. JC plays a Temple of Silence, scrying 1 and passing. Dom plays a Swamp and passes. Kevin plays a Kessig Wolfrun and then plays out Guruk Wildspeaker. He upticks the Walker, which untaps 2 lands and lets him cast a Sylvan Library. Joel draws and hits Guruk for 1 with his Death Cultist. He then goes to his second main phase and plays Tormenting Voice. He pitches a land and draws 2. He then plays a tap Kenyan Slough and passes turn. JC plays a Swamp and passes. Dom draws and has no other land to play, passing and discarding Sphinx of the Thune. Kevin plays a Maze of Ith and casts a Kur Tribe Elder, while JC sacrifices his landscape to go and find 2 matching basics. Kevin then upticks Guruk to untap 2 lands and passes to Joel. Joel plays a Mountain and brings out Chainer. He gains haste as he didn't cast it from his hand, and he goes to combat, swinging everything at Guruk. Kevin blocks Chainer with the Elder, sacrificing it before damage to go and find a basic. Guruk then takes 1 from the Cultist, and Joel passes. JC draws and casts Skyshroud Claim. He finds 2 forest cards, an Overgrown Tomb and a Scattered Groves, having both come in tapped. Dom casts Animate Dead in his main phase to bring back his Sphinx of the Thune, while Kevin cracks his Expedition Map to find a land. Kevin reveals a Temple of the False God, and Dom has JC make the piles. Seeing Dom's predicament, JC makes a pile with only lands or only spells, which has Dom take the pile of only lands. Dom then plays a Swamp and passes. Kevin uses his library trigger and keeps 1 extra, taking 4. He plays his Temple of the False God, and using some of his lands and untapping some of them with Guruk's uptick, he casts Borborygmos Enraged. Kevin then passes. Joel plays a Bloodstained Mire, losing 1 life as he sacrifices it to find a Swamp. Joel then sacrifices the Death Cultist to the tower, making 2 black mana, and he casts Cabal Ritual, making 5 more black mana. This is then used to pay for Sidisi Undead Vizier, and once she enters, responding to the exploit trigger going onto the stack, once Kevin has priority, he discards an Arcane Lighthouse to Borborygmos' ability and tries to deal 3 to Chainer. Responding to this trigger, Joel discards Kiki-Jiki to Chainer's ability, which will let him recast a creature card from his graveyard until the end of turn, and then puts Chainer to his yard. Kevin then discards 2 forests to Borborygmos' ability again, dealing enough to take out Sidisi. This means that Joel doesn't get to exploit and tutor, and with all that done, Joel then recasts his commander, Chainer, from his graveyard, and passes turn. JC casts Nissa Vastwood Seer, and goes to find a basic forest for his hand. He fails to find, and then plays a Blast Zone, transforming Nissa. He upticks the Walker, and reveals Cryptcast, putting to hand. JC then casts Oracle of Moldiah, revealing a Regal Behemoth off the top, and passes. Dom draws and plays a Swamp. He pays 4 for Gonti, and targets JC. He keeps one of the 4, and gives them back to bottom the rest. Moving to combat, the Sphinx heads at Nissa to take her out. Kevin uses his library trigger on his draw step, but doesn't keep any extras. He pays 3 for Song of the Dryad, and attaches the aura to Chainer. Moving to combat, Borborygmos goes at JC, who just takes the hit to the face. With his commander connecting, Kevin reveals his top 3, keeping 2 lands for his hand, and binning the Skyshroud claim. Kevin then upticks Garruk in his second main phase, untapping his 2 lands. He casts Rishkar's Expertise and draws 7. He then casts Gratuitous Violence for free, and he plays a Wasteland. He then discards a mountain to Borborygmos' ability to take out Gonti, and Kevin then passes, discarding down to 7. Joel casts a Lion's Eye Diamond in his main phase, and then casts Toxic Deluge. He loses 6 life to the spell to wipe the board, and passes turn. JC draws, and plays a Swamp we saw at the top of his library. He then pays 6 mana to bring in Teneb. JC then uses Mortify on Gratuitous Violence, and passes turn. Dom draws, and casts Atris in his main phase. He targets Kevin to make the piles 1 face down and 1 face up. Dom decides to take the face down pile, and bins the Panharmonicon. He then has to discard down to 7, and passes turn. Kevin uses his library trigger on his draw step, but doesn't keep any extras. He plays a forest, and goes through the steps to cast Xenagos, and then a Tally. Moving to combat, Kevin puts the Xenagos trigger targeting Atali, which has Joel respond to it by casting Terminate to take out the dinosaur. For Joel's turn, he casts Thrill of Possibilities, discarding Damnation as part of the additional cost. With the spell in the stack though, he then sacrifices LED to make 3 black mana, before letting the Thrill resolve, and draws 2. We then see Night's Whisper resolving, with Joel losing 2 life and drawing 2 cards. He plays a Shadowblood Ridge, and then a Rakdos Signet, and passes. JC draws for turn, and casts Reanimate to bring back Dom's Diluvian Primordial from his graveyard. He loses the life as it enters, and then checks out the yards. He casts Blatant Thievery, Night's Whisper, and Rishkar's Expertise from his opponent's yards. He resolves the Whisper first, drawing 2 and losing 2 life. He then resolves the Expertise, drawing 6 cards, and getting to play at a 5-drop or less for free. He casts Cryptcast. He then finally resolves the Blatant Thievery, taking the Maze of Ith, Phyrexian Tower, and Dom's Island. We then see JC casting Soul Ring, and then a Kakusho. Moving to combat, Teneb goes at Kevin for 6. With his commander connecting, JC is then able to pay 3 to reanimate a Tally from Kevin. He then passes, discarding down to 7. Dom loses 2 life to help cast Phyrexian Metamorph, and has it come in as a copy of the Diluvian Primordial. He picks Edge of Autumn from Kevin, Reanimate from JC, and Damnation from Joel. Dom then resolves the Edge and the Reanimate, bringing back Kiki-Jiki. Responding to the Damnation going to the stack, he taps Kiki-Jiki to make another Diluvian Primordial. This enters, and he puts to stack Unburial Rites and Cathartic Reunion. He targets the Sphinx with the Unburial Rites, and then discards 2 and draws 3. Damnation then finally happens and wipes the board. This has Kakusho going to the yard, draining JC's opponents for 5 life apiece, with JC gaining 15. Dom then remembers he also had to resolve the trigger from the Sphinx, giving the pile to Kevin. Dom picks the piles of lands again, and bins the rest. He plays an island, and passes while discarding down to 7. Kevin uses his library again, and doesn't keep any extra. He recasts Borborygmos with the help of Gruk untapping some more lands, and then casts Keen Sense onto his commander. Moving to combat, the Xenagos trigger goes onto Borborygmos, who swings at Dom, while Xenagos heads at JC. Before moving to damage though, Joel uses Bedevil on Borborygmos. With the spell in the stack, Kevin discards 2 lands, one at a time, and deals 3 damage at Joel's face twice. The removal then happens, taking out the commander, and Xenagos then becomes an enchantment again and deals no damage. Joel draws and casts the only card he has in his hand, a Mog Fanatic, and passes. JC draws and plays an isolated chapel. He casts Praetor's Council, and before letting it resolve, casts an Entomb to put a card to his graveyard, and the Vampiric Tutor to put something on top. He then resolves the Council, returning his yard to his hand, and not having a max hand size for the rest of the game. JC then recasts Nissa Basswood Seer, and chooses not to search, and passes. Dom plays another Swamp, and passes to Kevin. Kevin uses his library trigger, keeping only the 1 though. He then casts Scrollrack in his main phase, and casts a Farseek, grabbing a tap's Stomping Ground. We then see Gruk untapping some more lands with his uptick, and he passes to Joel. Joel draws and pays 3 for a Wheel of Fortune, which is a really good top deck when you have no hand. With the wheel in the stack, Kevin uses Court of Calling where X is 5 to grab Titania and put it to the field. He brings back from his yard a Forest, and they all then draw 7. Joel then casts Mana Crypt into a Soul Ring, and then the Dark Ritual again, making what seems like a lot of mana. He then casts Victimize, sacrificing his Mog Fanatic to the spell to bring back 2 creatures tapped. He puts out Kiki-Jiki and Sidisi. He exploits Sidisi and goes to find a card. He grabs his copy of Zealous Conscripts, who he casts, and untaps Kiki-Jiki, and is then able to use the Conscripts and Kiki-Jiki combo to close out the game. Game review time. So, Joel won with the classic Kiki-Jiki and Conscript combo, but I think he lucked out into it. He was able to tutor for it thanks to the Victimize, but if he hadn't drawn that Wheel of Fortune, I think he would have been hot water. Kevin's Borborygmos and Rage deck seemed to be firing on all cylinders, and he was drawing a bunch of lands and blasting people left, right, and center. Unfortunately, when he started doing that though, he made a lot of enemies, and he ate a lot of removal for his creatures this game. I think Dom was just as disappointed as you are that his Atris deck didn't perform. He was stuck so far behind lands that every time he got a Fact or Fiction type effect, he had to take the land pile regardless of what else he'd have to bin. In fact, he filled up his own graveyard so well that basically the only person who was able to use it properly was JC. It seems certainly like JC did more damage to himself thanks to the Reanimate and Night's Whisper, but it was for a good cause. I think if it hadn't been for the fact that Dom used his Phyrexian Metamorph to become a copy of the Diluvian Primordial and wipe the board, he was going to be in a strong position for the rest of the game. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.